This is Enma, a young man loved by everyone, with a reputation that precedes him wherever he goes. He is the leader of a sword fighting team, and his life is going perfectly. On an ordinary day, after finishing his training with his friends and completing all his obligations, he heads home. Suddenly, while standing there, the atmosphere around him begins to change in a strange way. Fog spreads everywhere, yet the young man notices nothing unusual. He crosses the road normally, but in the blink of an eye, a gigantic horse appears in front of him, running at an incredible speed, and crashes into him with tremendous force. The young man loses consciousness at that moment. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself inside a strange coffin. Unable to understand what happened, he struggles with all his strength to open it, and with a powerful blow, he manages to break it and get out. What he sees before him is extremely strange. Mirrors surround the place from every side, and people wearing mysterious robes stand around. As you might expect, my friend, the young man has been transported to a completely different world. At first, he thinks he is dreaming, until a strange man appears before him. Our hero tells him to stay away, saying that his appearance is suspicious. The man calmly replies that he is not suspicious and explains that, in order to understand what happened, Enma must know that he was chosen by the Mirror of Darkness to join the most prestigious magical academy, Night Raven Academy. He explains that the students of this academy are divided into 7 houses, just like in Harry Potter. Dear viewer, for those who do not understand what houses mean, it is simply that all the academy's students are divided into 7 teams, and each team is distinguished by specific traits. The main goal for everyone in this academy is to learn magic. After the man finishes his explanation, our hero says, "Wait a moment, I don't use magic at all, and I've never learned it in my life." The moment he says this, everyone in the place is shocked. How can a student be chosen when he cannot use magic at all? What nonsense is this? After that, Enma announces that he will return home and starts heading toward the gate. The man is extremely surprised and wonders how someone could refuse to join the greatest magical school in history. In the midst of this tension, the glass around the place suddenly shatters, and a strange creature appears. The creature speaks, saying that there are thousands of people who wish to join the academy, and since the new student, Enma, does not want to join, he will take his place. At that moment, the most surprising thing for our hero is not the creature's words, but the fact that he sees a cat talking. The cat becomes angry and says, "I am not a cat. My name is Grim, and if I join the academy, I will become one of the strongest mages." As soon as the students hear this, they burst into laughter and mockery, saying it is impossible for a monster to become a mage, let alone a cat. Grim becomes furious and declares that he will prove them wrong. Suddenly, he releases blue fire from his mouth, filling the entire place. Some students scream and run away in fear, while others stand frozen in shock, watching what will happen. That man, who turns out to be the academy's headmaster, stands completely calm and says that someone must stop this cat quickly, because despite his small size, he is dangerous. At that point, some students volunteer to handle the situation, not out of bravery or duty, but out of greed for extra grades from the headmaster, and they begin arguing over who will do it. Meanwhile, the rest of the students react differently. Some arrogant ones sit without caring at all, while others see what is happening as an amusing and entertaining experience. Amid this chaos, a red-haired student slowly steps forward toward the cat. Filled with rage, he angrily says, "How dare this bastard ruin this prestigious academy?" At that moment, Enma is watching everything unfold. When the young man approaches Grim, Enma suddenly jumps in and pushes him away before the fire can hit him. The red-haired student shouts at him, "Are you an idiot or what? Get away from me." He then stands up and walks straight toward Grim, quickly pulling out his magic wand and casting a spell that creates a restraint around Grim's neck, preventing him from using his magic and releasing blue fire again. At that moment, the headmaster applauds the red-haired student, and we learn that his name is Riddle, the leader of the Hartslebeel house. After that, the headmaster takes Grim and removes him from the academy, while Enma sits on the ground in complete shock. Enma thinks to himself that he has been transported to another world, a world full of magic, but that he still has many things to do in his own world, such as participating in sword fighting tournaments. Suddenly, Riddle interrupts his thoughts, angrily saying, "How dare you touch me, you scoundrel," instead of thanking him for saving his life. At that moment, two students step in to calm Riddle down a bit, telling him that Enma is still new to the academy and does not know anything yet. Our hero then joins the conversation and says that he will not join the academy in the first place because he does not know how to use magic. Riddle replies that it is impossible for the Mirror of Darkness to summon someone who cannot use magic. At that moment, dear viewer, the Mirror of Darkness itself speaks and confirms that the young man named Enma emits no magical energy whatsoever. This is extremely strange, because the person summoned every year is supposed to be a legendary magic user. The headmaster then says that it is impossible to accept Enma into the academy and that the mirror must return him to his homeland. The headmaster approaches the mirror and activates a spell, saying, "O mirror, return this young man to the place where he belongs." However, the mirror suddenly stops and announces that Enma does not belong anywhere. Our hero is shocked by this and wonders in great confusion what that could possibly mean. He later understands that the mirror can only transport people to places within the boundaries of this world, and since he came from another world, it is unable to return him. The headmaster asks Enma if he is from one of the neighboring kingdoms, and Enma replies that he is from Japan. The headmaster doubts his words, as there is no place called Japan in this world. In short, neither the headmaster nor the students realize that Enma is from another world. They simply believe he came from a nearby kingdom or country. Enma does not bother explaining further and says that he will find a way to return on his own later, then leaves the place. He begins wandering around, confused and amazed by the strange situation he has found himself in. His shock grows when he sees people flying through the air using magic wands, and he thinks to himself that he has literally been transported into a Harry Potter-like world. Suddenly, the headmaster appears beside him and asks him to try contacting any friend he has. Enma quickly takes out his phone, but as expected, there is no signal. The headmaster then tells him that, out of kindness, he will allow him to stay overnight in a nearby place while he is lost. He takes him to an abandoned house next to the academy. The house looks like something straight out of a horror movie, but at least it is livable. Then comes an even bigger shock, as Enma discovers that the house is haunted by ghosts. The headmaster tells him that these ghosts live there and try to scare him, but their attempts are useless. On the contrary, Enma feels excited and happy because he can now see ghosts, just like in superhero stories. After that, the headmaster tells him that he will allow him to live in this place, but in return, Enma must carry out some tasks such as cleaning and organizing. In exchange, he will be allowed to stay there and access the academy's library to research a way to return to his world. Enma is delighted by this offer and accepts it without hesitation. After the headmaster shows him the house, he leaves. Enma then goes to bed, falls asleep, and the day ends there. The next morning, Enma carries a bucket and heads to the place he was assigned to clean, only to be shocked by the presence of statues of strange figures he does not recognize. But we, the viewers, know them very well. They are famous cartoon characters, such as Scar the Lion, the Sorceress Maleficent, and Jafar from Aladdin. In short, there are 7 famous villains from classic animated cartoons. And within the academy, there are 7 houses. Each house represents a specific villain, and the students who belong to it resemble that villain in their personalities and behavior. For example, the lion Scar has a house that represents him, and the students of that house are characterized by violence, a love of power, and a constant desire to dominate and claim first place. Another example is the Queen of Hearts, who also has a house representing her, and whose students resemble her in their love of rules, hatred of mistakes, and belief that rules are more important than people. The best example of this is Riddle himself, who completely lost his temper when the cat broke the rules and disrupted order. That is the idea in short. During this time, Enma meets 2 students who explain all of this to him, then introduce themselves. The orange-haired boy is named Ace, and the other is named Spade. The 3 of them stand together until Grim appears again and repeats his desire to become a student at the academy. academy. When Enma calls him a cat, Grim gets angry as usual and prepares to attack him with fire magic, especially since the restraint that had been placed on him had already expired. Enma takes a ready stance, holding his cleaning staff, and tells Grim to try attacking if he wants. Grim had no idea that in his own world, Enma was the leader of a fencing team. Grim attacks confidently, but Enma launches a powerful strike with his staff, a blow so strong that even the air itself moves strangely. However, because he does not want to hurt Grim, he stops the strike at the very last moment. After that, Enma asks him why he is so determined to join the academy. Grim answers sadly that since childhood, his dream has been to enroll there, but he was rejected every time because he is just a monster, and everyone mocked him. Even so, he never gave up on his dream of becoming a great mage, and he will not surrender no matter what happens. Grim's words affect Enma deeply, as he remembers one of his friends on the fencing team who said something similar after being mocked because of his physical weakness. Enma then tells Grim to keep pursuing his dream and leaves him. At that moment, Ace says that simply trying will never allow him to join the academy. These words hurt Grim deeply, and Spade becomes upset as well, telling Ace to speak more politely because his words are harsh and do not consider others' feelings. Ace responds coldly, saying that he does not care and prepares to leave. But Grim, who is still angry, attacks him with fire magic. Ace responds with wind magic. Enma and Spade try to stop the fight, but without success. The clash continues until Ace falls to the ground, and Grim takes advantage of the moment to launch a powerful blast of fire at him. Ace barely manages to block it, but the flames rebound and strike the statue of the Princess of Hearts, burning it. This is considered a true disaster, because these figures are regarded as important icons of the academy. Meanwhile, Grim flees the scene, while the three young men stand there in shock, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the headmaster himself arrives and sees what has happened. He becomes extremely angry and declares that what occurred is unforgivable, deciding to expel them all. Spade is stunned, unable to believe that after joining the greatest magical school in the world, he would be expelled so quickly. Spade begs the headmaster to revoke the decision and promises to do anything, saying that his mother would never forgive him if he returned expelled. At that point, the headmaster decides to give them one final chance. He tells them that the lights in the main hall have been dim lately because the power of the magic stone that supplies them is fading, and that they must bring a replacement stone as quickly as possible. Spade agrees immediately, and the three set out on the mission, Ace and Spade to avoid expulsion, and Enma so that he can continue to be allowed access to the library. As the events grow more intense, Riddle learns what has happened. He asks the headmaster for permission and leaves in fury, like an erupting volcano, vowing to punish whoever dared to break the rules, no matter the cost. On the other hand, our heroes see a hut in front of them and head toward it, hoping to find something useful. Unfortunately, the hut is completely abandoned, with no one inside and nothing of use. After that, the boys learn that there is a mine nearby, where the magic stone is likely to be found. Spade suggests heading there, but Ace warns him that the place will be extremely dark. At that moment, they notice a candle and decide to use it. But the problem is how to light it. Enma suggests using magic, but Ace and Spade tell him that their magical energy has already been depleted, and that fire magic is not easy to use. Suddenly, Grim appears and lights the candle for them, revealing that he had been following them the entire time because he is searching for a powerful magic stone to increase his own power. The group decides to take him with them to the mine. Along the way, Grim behaves arrogantly, claiming that they are his followers and that he is the leader, so he should be at the front. All of this arrogance completely disappears when they reach the entrance of the mine. As he becomes terrified by its frightening appearance, the group enters the mine and begins searching for the magic stone. Only a few minutes pass before they hear a strange sound. As expected, things do not go smoothly. They see dirt flying through the air and realize that something huge is moving inside the mine. Without hesitation, they hide behind a rock, and Enma extinguishes the candle. A massive, strange monster appears, screaming for no reason, its voice utterly terrifying. The four remain hidden in intense fear until the monster moves away. At that moment, Grim almost sneezes and makes a sound, and everyone quickly quickly grabs his mouth to keep him from exposing their position. Spade says that he will fight the monster because it most likely possesses the magic stone. Ace and Enma strongly object, asking if he has lost his mind, but he replies that he will not allow himself to be expelled from the academy no matter what, and that he will never give up. Spade rushes toward the monster, which attacks him the moment it sees him. Spade narrowly dodges the blow and realizes that the monster's strength is enormous, but its speed is slow. He tries to exploit this weakness and attacks with all his might, managing to hit it. However, the monster is unaffected, and it becomes clear that its body is made of gas, and it even tries to swallow Spade inside itself. Spade barely escapes. At that moment, the monster begins launching fast and powerful attacks. Spade dodges them skillfully, but one of the monster's strikes causes rocks to fall on him, burying him beneath the rubble. Enma and Ace are shocked. Without hesitation, Enma jumps in to save his friend before he can receive the finishing blow. Followed by Ace and Grim, Enma distracts the monster, which suddenly attacks him, leaving him frozen, unsure of what to do, until Ace intervenes and saves him using wind magic. As for Grim, he attacks the monster directly with fire magic, but the monster is unaffected. Instead, its power increases, and its attacks become even more violent. Enma ignores this and rushes to check on Spade, finding him safe, thankfully. Suddenly, they spot the magic stone. Spade rejoices, saying that expulsion will not happen now. At the same time, the monster also notices the stone and charges toward them, trying to stop them from reaching it. Enma lifts Spade and runs at full speed, with Ace and Grim following behind, putting distance between themselves and the monster. Spade suggests going back to fight it, but Ace strongly objects. Enma then steps in and tells them that they do need to go back, but this time as a single team, with a solid plan because defeating the monster will be easy if they work together. Ace and Spade reject the idea at first due to their tension, so Enma tells them that expulsion from the academy will be their fate. At that point, the two become extremely anxious and finally decide to cooperate. The plan begins. Enma lures the monster out of the cave, and as soon as it emerges, Ace attacks it with powerful strikes using wind magic. However, the monster is unaffected. Ace attacks several times, narrowly dodging counterattacks until he manages to confuse the monster with a powerful tornado. Enma then orders Grim to join in. Grim launches his flames into the tornado, turning it into a massive fire whirlwind. After that, Spade joins in and activates his magic, summoning gigantic metals with which he attacks the monster. The blows continue one after another, and the monster begins to collapse. They then execute a decisive three-way attack that completely destroys it. The four celebrate their success and confirm that the credit goes to Enma's guidance, but he humbly responds that they are one team. As they prepare to search for the magic stone, the monster suddenly speaks, declaring that it will not allow anyone to take its stone, revealing that it is still alive. The monster suddenly rises and nearly finishes off Ace, but fortunately, Riddle arrives at the very last moment and destroys it completely with a swift fire attack. Ace rejoices and expresses his surprise at being saved, but Riddle responds angrily, questioning why he should save those who broke the rules. He emphasizes that breaking the rules is unforgivable and that he will punish them severely, even mocking them for taking so long to defeat a weak monster. Since Riddle is the leader of the Heartslabile house, to which Ace and Spade belong, and since this house represents the rule-loving Queen of Hearts, his strictness is to be expected. Riddle orders Ace and Spade to be taken away, and they are dragged off while screaming, as Enma stands helpless, unable to do anything. Enma proceeds to extract the magic stone in order to return it to the academy and save his friends from expulsion. Grim tries to take the stone, but Enma stops him. Grim explains that he has exhausted his magical energy and only hoped to regain his strength, but Enma refuses to give him the stone. At that moment, Grim smells a strong magical energy and rushes outside, discovering that it is coming from the remains of the monster. He devours it, gaining enormous magical power and feeling immense joy. Enma and Grim return to the academy, and Enma hands the magic stone to the headmaster, who is shocked by their success and even more astonished when he hears the details of what happened. The headmaster explains that most students rely solely on their magical power and find it difficult to cooperate, but Enma managed to bring Ace and Spade together and work as a team, which is rare. The headmaster acknowledges Enma's excellence and decides to enroll him in the academy together with Grimm as partners, Enma with his intellect and intelligence, and Grimm with his magical energy, each complementing the other. Grimm leaps with joy in overwhelming happiness, while Enma sees this as a good opportunity to meet new people and search for a way back to his homeland, all while enjoying the new atmosphere. The headmaster attaches a magical badge to Grimm, officially confirming his enrollment in Night Raven Academy, and grants Enma a magical camera that will help him in many ways. At that moment, Grimm jumps with excitement, and happiness fills our hero, Enma. After all these events, Enma returns to sleep at the house, and Grimm goes with him as well, appearing to settle there permanently. Before Enma can close his eyes, there is a knock at the door. He gets up to see who it is. It turns out to be Ace, who says that he will never return to the place where Riddle is again. He enters and sits with Enma, telling him what happened. He explains that things went smoothly after Riddle's punishment, but earlier he woke up hungry, opened the refrigerator, and found a delicious-looking cake. Unable to resist, he took a piece and ate it, thinking no one would notice. The surprise, however, is that Riddle was standing behind him with a terrifying expression. Ace collapsed to the ground in shock. Riddle then said that the cake belonged to him and that he had bought it specifically because he was craving it, and that what Ace did was unacceptable. Riddle then cast a spell on Ace, placing a collar around his neck that prevents him from using magic. After that, Ace left the place and came to Enma. When Enma hears the story, he tells Ace that he is wrong this time, because taking something that belongs to someone else without permission is theft, and that he must apologize to Riddle. Ace refuses at first, but Enma gives him a sharp, piercing look, and Ace finally agrees on the condition that Enma goes with him the next day. Enma does not mind. The three then go to their sleeping places. Since Ace is staying in the house that night, he finds no place to sleep except the living room, so he sleeps there, while Enma and Grimm sleep in the upstairs room. And do you think, dear viewer, that Ace will get any rest? Not at all. The ghosts torment him all night long without mercy. The next morning, Ace wakes up to the sound of knocking. When he opens the door, he finds Spade, who says that he expected to find him here. He adds that news of what happened yesterday has spread, and that the same thing happened to 3 other students as well because they were late to class. Ace becomes worried at that moment and fears apologizing, but Enma has already woken up and stands behind him, reassuring him that there is no need to be afraid and that he should apologize. He then takes Ace by the hand and leads him straight toward the academy. As for Grimm, as usual, he enters the place and is completely amazed by it. They notice that the academy has many magical gates. Spade explains to Enma that each gate leads to a specific house. For example, the red gate leads to the Heartslabile house. After saying this, everyone enters the red gate, with Enma joining them in surprise. They are instantly transported to a different place. Enma sees before him a magnificent, beautiful palace and a garden filled with roses. Among them white roses that a young man is painting red. When he sees our heroes, he recognizes each of them, especially Ace, since news about him has spread. That young man's name is Cater. He approaches Spade and Ace and takes a photo with them, showing that he is very friendly and social. He is a third-year student, while Ace and Spade are still first years. After introductions, Cater asks them to help him paint the roses because a party is going to be held, and by tradition, the roses must be red. They do not mind. Ace and Enma take buckets of red paint and begin coloring the roses, while Spade and Grimm try to use their magic. However, Spade fails to properly form his spell, and Grimm as expected burns the trees. Cater quickly handles the situation, using his magic to extinguish the fire and turn the entire tree red. He then says that they must finish the work before Riddle arrives so that everything looks organized. He adds that all members of the house love rules, but Riddle is the strictest among them, sometimes excessively so. It is clear from Cater's tone that he is hiding something. At that moment, Ace remembers that he must apologize to Riddle. Cater tells him that there is a rule stating that an apology requires compensation specifically, bringing a cake especially with the celebration approaching. But Ace has nothing. Cater then says that he cannot allow them to stay there, because if Riddle finds out they are there without compensation for what happened, he would punish Cater himself and place a collar around his neck. Ace tries to persuade Cater, but without discussion, Cater casts a multiple duplication spell. Many copies enemies of him appear and force them outside, telling them that he will only allow them back in if they bring a cake. Enma is astonished by this strange magic, as he has never seen anything like it in his life. After that, it is time for classes and the start of the school day. Since Enma has now become an official member, Spade asks him about his class, and they discover that all four of them are in the same class. What a coincidence. They head together to begin their school day. The first class is spellcasting, supervised by Professor Divis, who appears somewhat eccentric. After the first class ends, the second class begins under Professor Train, who arrives with his cat. He is strict and tells them that their grades do not depend solely on exams, but that their behavior in class will also have an impact. As for the third class, it is a physical education class with the muscle-bound instructor Ashton, who puts them through extremely grueling training drill after drill until they are on the verge of collapsing, except for Enma, who handles it easily because he used to practice fencing in his world. After that, it is finally time for food. The students head to the dining hall, where there is every kind of delicious food you could imagine, huge quantities, and a very tempting sight. Each of our heroes takes whatever he craves, even Grimm, and Enma looks after him and takes care of him. As they are heading to their seats, Cater sees them and calls out to them. They try to avoid him out of fear of what he did earlier, but he comes over and forces them to sit with him without debate. There, we meet another third-year student named Clover. He gets acquainted with the others, and then they all sit together eating and talking. Enma asks whether all 7 houses are this luxurious, and Clover replies that it is true. He explains that the Mirror of Darkness is the one that decides which house each student belongs to based on their traits. Then Clover begins giving quick information about each house. He says there are 7 houses. The first is Hartslabiol, and its members are extremely devoted to rules. The second is Savanaclaw, and its members excel in sports and martial arts. The third is Octavinel, and its residents are distinguished by extraordinary intelligence and brilliant cunning. The fourth is Scarabia, and its members are skilled at predicting what will happen. The fifth is Pomifere, and its members excel at spells and curses. The sixth is Ignihide, and its students are outstanding in the engineering of magical energy and technology, but they are isolated and unsociable. And the seventh and final is Diasamia, and its members are superior in almost everything. After Clover finishes speaking, he points to a group of Diasamia students in the hall. Ace notices a child sitting with them, and Clover is about to explain, but that student, whose name is Lucas, suddenly appears near them in an instant, as if he teleported. He tells them he is a third year, meaning older than them, and that they could have asked him instead of staring. He also confirms that the members of Diasamia are always cooperative, but Spade notices that Lucas' friends look angry and do not seem cooperative at all. Luca gives Ace some candy, then suddenly returns to his seat among his friends. Enma and the others are amazed, because they had been speaking in a very low voice, and because Luca can teleport. Meanwhile, Cater says that Diasamia has very special people, such as the house leader, who is rumored to be among the 5 strongest mages in the world, and whose signature spell is extremely powerful. Enma is surprised, so Clover explains that every person has a unique signature spell. Cater's spell is multiple duplication, and Riddle's spell is the collar that prevents someone from using magic for a limited time. Ace suddenly cuts in and says that he now has to apologize to that idiot Riddle, and that he also has to bring a cake, because he is a crazy person who loves rules in a weird way. The moment he says that, he senses someone behind him. He turns around and finds Riddle himself standing there, and just like that, Ace finds himself in an unenviable situation. At that same moment, Riddle says that the headmaster has forgiven them for what they did, and he remarks that the headmaster is far too lenient, and that if he were in his place, he would not have done that. Ace starts mocking the rules in a low voice, but Riddle hears him, grabs him, and says that he had intended to forgive him, but since he shows no remorse, he will spend the entire year with this lock around his neck. He then orders them to follow some extremely strange rules, such as leaving the table at exactly 15 minutes, and drinking lemon tea after finishing their food. They go along with it and tell him, okay. Riddle then leaves the place in a very bad mood because the students are not carrying out his orders properly. It is not even about important rules. He is angry because one student drank milk tea instead of lemon tea. Riddle was extremely eccentric. After that, Enma notices that everyone is complaining about how strict Riddle is with rules. Clover tries to justify it, saying it is part of his duty as house leader. As for Ace, all he cares about is buying a cake as quickly as possible. But he remembers that cakes are expensive and he does not have enough money. Ace asks Cater about the person who made the cake that was in the refrigerator on the day he ate from it, and Cater tells him that the one who made it was Clover. Everyone is surprised because the cake was incredibly good. Ace goes to Clover and starts flattering him, massaging his shoulders, and asks him to make another cake because he cannot afford to buy one. Clover agrees, but on two conditions. First, they must bring the plant from which the cake will be made, and second, they must help him peel the plant and prepare the cake. Everyone agrees, and Clover tells them, "All right, go now and bring 300 plants so we can start." They are shocked by the number, but they have no choice. They head into the garden and split up to search for the plants from that tree. Enma takes Grim with him and searches everywhere. Along the way, Enma accidentally steps on a tail. He is confused, then turns around and sees a boy with a tail, a beastman from Savanaclaw named Leona. Leona tells Enma that he woke him up from a comfortable nap. Enma apologizes twice, but Leona remains extremely angry and throws a punch that nearly could have been fatal, threatening to break his teeth. However, Leona's friend arrives at the last moment and stops him, then says, "Come on, quickly, we have classes," and the two of them leave. At that moment, Grim is nearly trembling with fear, while Enma notices that Leona's behavior is exactly like a lion's. That is natural, because he is from Savanaclaw, which represents Scar, the lion who loves power. After that, Ace calls out to Enma they have finally found the trees of the plant they need. They gather a large amount of it and take it to the kitchen with Clover, who tells them the quantity is suitable and that it is time to prepare it. They begin by boiling the plant, then peeling it, then boiling it with milk and sugar. After that, it is strained and a little butter is added. While they work, Clover keeps giving them instructions and joking with them, creating a pleasant atmosphere. In the end, only a few simple steps remain, but they discover that the cream has run out. Clover asks Spade to write a list of missing ingredients, such as cream, eggs, and others. Spade, Enma, and Grim go to the school store to get them. They request everything they need from the shopkeeper, then return to the kitchen. As they walk, Spade talks about how he is used to carrying bags like these for his mother because he is the only man in the house. His mother has no children besides him, and his father is deceased. Enma tells him that this means he loves his mother very much, and Spade replies that he really does. Suddenly, someone bumps into them and knocks Spade to the ground. Spade quickly turns to the bag and finds that the worst thing he feared has happened. All the eggs have broken. He immediately stands up and demands that the person pay for the eggs, but the fat, ridiculous boy refuses and says he will not pay anything. Then he adds sarcastically, "The eggs didn't even fall on the ground, you can eat them." Spade explodes in anger and threatens that he will beat him until he understands. The fat boy responds defiantly and starts attacking, but Spade blocks his strike instantly and lands a punch to his face strong enough to drop him. Spade is about to keep hitting him, but Enma, standing there in shock, stops him and tells him not to hit him anymore, or he might be expelled from the academy. Spade controls himself, while that boy runs away trembling in terror. Enma speaks with Spade, and Spade admits that he completely lost his temper and that he hates himself when he gets angry because he does not want to return to how he used to be. Enma does not understand, so Spade begins telling his story. He says that in middle school he was one of the troublemakers who broke classrooms and skipped lessons. He dyed his hair, hung around bad people in his free time, and even insulted those who had no magic. Until one day he came home late and heard his mother talking to his grandmother, crying as she said, "I don't know where I went wrong raising this boy. He's corrupt and a failure. Is the problem that his father is dead?" Her eyes were full of tears. When Spade saw that scene, his heart broke, and he made a vow never to return to those actions again and never to make his mother cry because of him. From that day on, he decided wanted to become a good boy. That is why he began behaving respectfully and joined the academy. And that is also the reason he panicked when the headmaster threatened to expel him. Enma's respect for Spade increases after hearing the story. He tells him that he really has improved a lot, and that the person deserved the punch, but he warns him that fighting should be the last resort, and that Spade is now able to control himself and leave the bad path behind. He tells him to keep going, not to give up, and that one mistake does not mean the end of the world. Spade is happy with Enma's words and thanks him. Then they return to the kitchen with Clover. Within a few minutes, they finish preparing the cakes. And there is more than one cake. Clover cuts one for them, and each of them takes a piece the moment they taste it. They like the flavor a lot. When Clover sees their joy, he remembers old days when he and Riddle were young and ate strawberry cake. He remembers how happy he was with the first bite, and it is clear that he holds deep affection for Riddle. Cater interrupts his thoughts and asks him to do his signature move. Clover agrees, then asks each of the boys about his favorite food. Each one mentions what he likes, and Enma says that his favorite food is fish and rice. Then Clover casts a spell with his wand on the cake pieces and asks them to taste again. They do, and they are shocked the taste of each person's piece changes to match his favorite food. Enma's piece, for example, becomes flavored like fish and rice. Cater tells them that this is Clover's signature spell. It allows him to change the flavor of any food. It might be an unnecessary spell, but it is cute and fun. After all that, Enma goes back to sleep, along with Grimm and also Ace, who still is not allowed to enter Hartslebel. Cater and Clover return to their own house to sleep as well. But when they arrive at Hartslebel, they find all the students standing there, extremely upset, and the surprise is that every single one of them is wearing a lock around his neck. One of them says that what Riddle is doing has become unbearable. They do love rules, but Riddle is insanely strict about everything. He even punished all of them because they drank lemon after 8 o'clock, which is supposed to be bedtime. The students' complaints grow louder, and some of them cry and say they want to transfer to another house. When Clover hears that, he tells them that he will speak with Riddle about it soon, and so the day ends there. The next day, all the boys wake up and get ready, putting on the official uniform. As for our hero Enma, he does not have that uniform. They then head straight to the party, which is so dazzling in every way that Enma is amazed by what he sees. After a while, Riddle arrives, and everyone welcomes him. He looks around at the place and the preparations and finds everything organized and in order, so he sits down without causing problems, then announces the start of the celebration. Everyone begins eating cake and looks extremely happy. At that moment, Cater whispers to Ace that this is the right time to apologize and present the cake. Ace agrees, steps up to Riddle, apologizes to him, and tells him that he brought a cake as compensation for what happened. Riddle asks if the cake is strawberry, and Ace answers in good faith that it is not. At that moment, Riddle explodes in rage and says that Rule No. 562 forbids bringing any cake to the party other than strawberry cake. Even more astonishing, this house has 810 rules. Riddle has memorized all of them, while Clover has only memorized up to Rule No. 350. So he did not know that the required cake specifically had to be strawberry. Clover tries to apologize to Riddle on Ace's behalf, but Riddle refuses, saying the problem is not with the one who made the cake, but with the person who brought it here. Ace. Enma then joins the conversation and says to Riddle, "Is this rule important in the first place? Honestly, I don't think so. No one here has a problem eating a cake with a different flavor. If a rule doesn't benefit anyone, then it isn't an important rule." Riddle tries to object, but Ace supports Enma and calls those rules stupid and worthless, insisting that everyone is annoyed by them. Riddle looks at those present, and they become tense and do not dare admit they are bothered. The only one who openly agrees with Ace is Spade. Riddle then declares that since he became the house warden, the house has been in a better state and the students used to follow and obey the rules. But now violations have increased. Anyone who breaks the rules will have a lock placed around his neck, because in his view his orders are always correct, and rules are the most important thing in life. Our heroes refuse to submit to him, so Riddle becomes violently angry and strikes them with his magic, placing locks around their necks, then orders Cater and Clover Clover to throw them outside. Cater and Clover apologize and say they cannot disobey Riddle's orders as the house warden, and they tell the boys that the only solution is to apologize. But Ace says it is impossible for him to apologize to that selfish person. The four of them then go and sit in the garden, thinking of a solution to the disaster they have fallen into. They can no longer enter Hartslebule, and on top of that, each of them has an annoying lock around his neck. Meanwhile, someone appears with only his head visible, terrifying Ace. Then the rest of his body shows, and they realize they are facing someone with an invisibility ability. They ask who he is, and he introduces himself as Shinya. Ace irritably tells him to get out of here because he is upset with Riddle, whom he sees as extremely tyrannical. Shinya laughs and says that when Riddle was little, he was not like this. Everyone is surprised, and Ace asks whether Shinya knew him as a child. Shinya teases them a little, then says he will not give them information. He only says they should ask the bespectacled boy, meaning Clover. Then he bids them farewell. Spade tries to stop him, but Shinya uses his ability and disappears. Enma then takes Spade, Ace, and even Grim, and they go to Clover to ask about it. They find Clover in the library, and he tells them that Shinya and Riddle were his childhood friends. He explains that Riddle suffered harshness from his family. They were always strict with him. Food, drink, and studying were his entire life. Everything in his day had a set time, and his mother literally controlled every detail of his life. She did not allow him to play even though he was still a small child. Because of that, he grew up believing that rules are the most important thing and that they must be obeyed no matter what. When Ace hears this, he thinks for a moment, then bursts out, saying, "All of this is because of you, Clover. You're the reason. You were his friend and you saw him suffering. And instead of helping him and guiding him to the right behavior, you were afraid of hurting his feelings and you left him drowning in this mindset until he became hated by everyone and isolated on his own." He adds that this is not true friendship. Real friends stand by you in hard times. Enma and Spade are shocked by Ace's words. At that moment, the headmaster arrives and says the matter is simple. Since there is a conflict with the house warden, they can challenge him, and whoever defeats him becomes the new warden. He adds that this is the same method Riddle used to become warden. Ace likes the idea very much and says he will win and become the new warden. He begins imagining the scene of his victory, as if Riddle is apologizing to him and calling him Sir Ace. Spade also decides that he will challenge Riddle. The headmaster tells them, "All right, good luck, but be careful. These duels are magic only." The two are surprised because they will not be able to use any weapons. That means they will be facing the strongest mage in the entire house, Riddle, using what he is best at, magic. Clover sits listening to everything, overwhelmed with confusion. He does not want to hurt Riddle or embarrass him, and he is worried about him, yet at the same time he believes Riddle's behavior is wrong. So should he stand against him or remain silent? After agreeing on everything, the boys return to Enma's house to rest a little. The next day, they head to the garden where the duel will take place. All the students gather, anticipating the result. Enma makes Spade wear a helmet, then stands at a distance cheering them on. The headmaster asks Riddle to remove the locks so the challengers can use magic and the duel can be fair. Riddle does so, then says, "Don't worry, once I defeat you, I'll put them back around your necks again." Ace provokes him, saying, "Show us what you've got." The headmaster announces that the duel will begin as soon as the mirror breaks. He throws the mirror to the ground, and the moment it hits and shatters, Riddle launches an extremely fast surprise attack. He immediately puts the locks back around their necks. Since it is a magical attack, it is allowed. Enma and Grim freeze in shock, and even Spade and Ace can hardly believe it. How did he defeat us this quickly? Riddle, arrogant as ever, sits smugly and says it did not even take 5 seconds. The headmaster declares Riddle the rightful winner. Riddle then starts insisting that he was right in the end and begins mocking Spade and Ace, saying they must have grown up in a bad environment and that their families were weak at using magic. At that moment, Spade becomes furious because Riddle mentioned their families. Before he can move, Ace suddenly rushes at full speed toward Riddle and slaps him hard across the face. He tells him that children being weak or strong has nothing to do with upbringing or parents. He adds that Riddle has been arrogant since he entered the academy and has not been able to make even a single friend, and he warns him not to speak about their families in a bad way. Riddle is even more shocked when Ace continues, saying that they know Riddle was raised in a strict and harsh environment, but that does not justify his behavior, and he needs to realize that what he is doing is wrong. Ace ends by saying, "Don't be arrogant, you're just a kid who happens to be good at magic." Riddle freezes in place, and memories of his childhood crash over him, how his mother refused every request he ever made. He remembers how, on his birthday, she would bring him a low-sugar cake with a simple appearance, while he wished for a delicious strawberry cake like other children, but she would get angry and refuse his request. She controlled every detail of his life. His entire day was studying or sleeping, without a single moment of rest or play. It is true that parents can sometimes be harsh for the sake of what they think is best, but what Riddle's mother did was a grave mistake. He was, in the end, a small child who needed to play and enjoy his childhood like everyone else. Back in the present, Riddle erupts in fury and screams that rules are always right, and if his mother was right, then he is right too, and he will not allow them to break the rules. At that moment, one of the students throws an egg at his face, and it breaks over his head. The students then break their silence and declare that they will not be afraid anymore. They call him an arrogant tyrant and confirm that no one likes his stupid rules, and that they are sick of this situation. Enma is astonished by this sudden change in their reactions, and it becomes even more intense when the students begin throwing books, tools, and anything they can get their hands on to force Riddle to leave. When Riddle sees everyone turning against him, he loses his mind and screams, demanding to know who threw the egg, staring at them with terrifying eyes. When no one answers, he declares that everyone will be punished, and he uses his magic, making locks appear around all their necks. Riddle laughs hysterically as he uses his magic. Some students try to run, but it is useless. Grimm tells Enma that they have to escape, but Enma refuses, saying he feels something bad is about to happen. And indeed, his instinct is correct. Riddle turns to Ace and orders him to take back what he said, but Ace refuses. Then a black liquid appears on Riddle's face, and everyone is shocked. Even the headmaster cannot believe what he is seeing, murmuring in astonishment, "Could it be him?" Riddle completely loses control. A strange power erupts from him, surrounding him with a violent, demonic aura so intense that nearby trees are ripped out by their roots. He uses that power to attack Ace, who stands frozen, unable to react, as a tree rushes toward him. At the last moment, Clover intervenes using his magic, turning the tree into scattered leaves. In a single second, the locks vanish from around our heroes' necks. It turns out that Clover possesses a legendary ability that allows him to stop anyone's magic for a short time, an ability derived from his signature spell. Clover looks at Riddle's face, and childhood memories return the first time they met. He remembers how he and Shinya were walking one day when they saw a child looking out a window, and they watched him out of curiosity. When Riddle heard them, he opened the window. They introduced themselves and invited him to play with them. He hesitated at first, then agreed. The three spent a full day playing and having fun running, playing ball, climbing trees. When they sat atop a tree, Riddle told them he wished he could taste strawberry cake. Clover told him that his parents owned a bakery and suggested going to eat cake. Riddle was delighted and went with them. There, Clover's parents served him the most beautiful strawberry cake he had ever seen. Riddle tasted it. His senses were overwhelmed, and a sincere, joyful smile appeared on his face. A smile that has remained carved into Clover's memory to this day. Back in the present, Riddle cannot believe Clover is standing on Ace's side, and he accuses him of betrayal. It should be noted that at that moment Riddle is not fully conscious, because dark emotions have taken control of him and convinced him that everyone around him is an enemy. So he decides to attack Clover as well. But the headmaster shouts, warning him not to use magic again, because that will increase that force's control over him. Yet Riddle ignores the warning and activates his magic again, causing an enormous, strange magical energy to explode. Then, suddenly and unexpectedly, Riddle's appearance changes completely as that black sludge covers him entirely. Everyone is stunned, unable to understand what happened. Riddle declares that everyone has become his enemy, but at the same time insists that he now represents the law and that he will not allow anyone anyone to break it. He lets out an evil laugh, then summons a gigantic monster from beneath the ground. At that moment, the headmaster explains to the boys that this black, sludge-like substance is called blot. In short, every mage's wand contains a gem, and blot is placed inside it. Magic is drawn from it. But when a mage overuses magic, the gem shatters, blot spills out, and it takes control of the person. He loses control over himself and his emotions, and becomes almost like a madman. That is exactly what happened to Riddle. The headmaster blames himself for not intervening in time. When our heroes understand the truth of what is happening, they become deeply worried for Riddle. Things become worse when the headmaster says that if the situation continues like this, Riddle may lose his life. Ace is deeply shocked, but at that very moment, Riddle surprises them with a swift, crushing attack. However, in the blink of an eye, the headmaster casts a shield spell and blocks the attack, an attack powerful enough to blow away the ground around them. Riddle laughs a terrifying laugh and says he will be the one to control everything, and that anyone who challenges him is destined to die. Then he launches another attack in less than 5 seconds. Using the trees as weapons. The headmaster blocks some of the attacks, but he cannot block them all, and some students are injured. Riddle does not stop there, he continues his assaults, forcing the headmaster to activate the shield again. The headmaster orders everyone to run immediately, but no one runs because everyone decides to face Riddle and not allow him to defeat them or to die. When the headmaster's magical energy fades and the shield stops, the boys suddenly rush Riddle. Ace begins the attack using wind magic, followed by Spade, then Grim with help from our hero Enma. But their attacks do not affect Riddle at all. Instead, he redirects them toward Cater, who moves away at the last second. He shouts at them to run immediately, but they refuse. As for Clover, all his memories with Riddle come rushing back, and he tells himself it is impossible to run and leave his childhood friend to die. He always watched him being treated harshly and never helped him once, and he feels the time has come to do the right thing. Meanwhile, Riddle fires black magical arrows. Ace blocks them, but they reshape themselves and slam into the ground with force. The moment they touch the ground, they melt and the black substance spreads everywhere. Riddle then fires a second volley of arrows, and everyone barely dodges them, while Enma smashes them apart with his wooden sword. Grim gets surrounded by the arrows, and Enma saves him, but Blot begins to take over his body until Clover intervenes with his legendary magic and stops it. Riddle grows angry and launches another arrow that nearly hits Spade, but Cater suddenly steps in and takes the blow instead. The arrow pierces his body, and he falls dead. However, the shock quickly turns into astonishment when it becomes clear that what fell was only a copy. Cater had used his signature spell. He and Clover charge toward Riddle, who attacks them with arrows. Clover stops them with his magic, and Cater destroys them using his duplicates. The battle continues like this for a while, until everyone joins in. Ace, Spade, Grim, and Enma. They work together to shatter the arrows, fighting in an impressive, coordinated way. In the middle of it, Enma notices that Riddle's concentration has begun to weaken slightly. Enma quickly puts on the helmet and charges at him with all his strength. Riddle fires new arrows, but Enma, using the fencing skills he learned in his world, dodges them with astonishing mastery, to everyone's amazement. When Riddle unleashes a dense barrage of arrows that makes dodging impossible, Enma acts decisively and destroys them all with unmatched precision. Riddle is stunned as he watches Enma get closer and closer, unable to do anything, while Spade, Ace, and Grim support him with their own attacks. When only a few centimeters remain, Enma leaps into the air and delivers a decisive strike that shatters the monster's head, and Riddle collapses to the ground. Riddle begins thinking about everything that happened, wondering inside himself whether he was right or not. Since childhood, he was raised to obey rules blindly, and he felt pain every time he forced himself and others to follow them. Now he finds himself with no friends, and everyone hates him. He sees himself as if watching his childhood self from afar. Then he falls to the ground. Suddenly, a glowing door appears before him, and he hears someone calling him. He tries to reach it with all the strength he has, tears streaming from his eyes, until his hand stretches toward the door, but another hand grabs him at the last moment. Riddle opens his eyes to find that the one holding his hand is his childhood friend, Clover. He tries to get up, but Clover tells him to rest. Everyone is relieved that the danger is gone. Then Riddle speaks in a broken voice, saying he had wished to taste the cake Ace brought and that he no longer cares about rules. He says he actually likes drinking lemon at night, and he wishes he could be like the others, sitting with them, talking with them, and eating with them. He adds sadly that he also wanted to spend more time playing with Clover and Shinya. Riddle bursts into tears, crying like a child in a touching scene. Clover tells him that everything he did was wrong and that now he must apologize. Riddle stands up and apologizes to everyone while crying, and everyone smiles. But Ace surprises them by saying he will not forgive him for the insult, then sets a condition for forgiveness, that the party be held again, and that Riddle himself make the cake with his own hands. Riddle agrees immediately. The headmaster announces that the problem has finally been solved, then takes Riddle to the infirmary for treatment, with Clover accompanying him. Our 4 heroes remain. Grim feels hungry after using so much magic. He smells something good and finds it coming from the remains of Riddle's monster, which have turned into a glassy magical gem, and he devours it immediately. Enma warns him as usual, but Grim reassures him. Spade and Ace tease him, and they all laugh. Cater looks at them and says softly, "Thank you, guys." When they turn toward him, he pretends he did not say anything. After that, everyone repairs the damage that happened and rearranges the place. Then it is time to hold the party again. Everything is prepared, and Riddle is welcomed once more. But this time he is less strict and tries to change his personality gradually. He sees a white rose tree that was supposed to be red according to the rules, and he calmly walks over and colors it himself with magic. The students are surprised and cheer his name happily. After that, he pulls out a box containing the strawberry cake he made himself and has everyone taste it at the same time. Its taste is extremely bad, since it is his first attempt, but everyone laughs, and Riddle and Clover laugh happily as well. Enma watches the scene with joy. He takes out the magical camera the headmaster gave him and begins taking pictures of the students as they celebrate. In his opinion, the best photo was of Grim standing in front of the cake. The atmosphere fills with happiness, and Shinya also appears at the party and jokes with Riddle. Clover tells the boys that Shinya is not from Night Raven Academy, but from the rival academy, Royal Sword, and that the 2 academies competed together in magical tournaments in the past. He announces that the sword competitions will be held soon between the 7 houses. On the other side, Leona appears as well, confirming that the competitions are approaching and that he is extremely excited for them. In short, this is only the beginning, and what is coming is even greater.